Hello, Otafest listeners. Welcome to the newest episode of the Otafest podcast. I'm joined here by
Angelo,
Nancy.
and myself, which is Jay, I guess. Welcome back, guys.
It's good to be back.
it's good to be back.
Yes,
I
yes,
was
it is.
working last week, so I couldn't be here.
I was horrendously sick and sounded. Actually, I sounded like an 8-year-old.
They'd have been coming for you. They wouldn't have believed you.
But you sound a lot better, and I'm glad that you're here. And
Sounded
with
a lot
us.
more like me.
Yeah. Before we get too far into anything, I just want to talk about, we have our Goro and Gun promotion. So if you haven't already, buy your tickets for the Koyo, which is our Goro and Gun Oden dinner on November 30th. Tickets are $40 for a 3-course meal, and they include tax and tip, which is pretty good. And all the information for that is going to be on otafest.com/Oden. That's O-D-E-N.
I'm super excited. It's gonna be delicious.
It sounds like a good time.
Mm-hmm.
On the same day, earlier in the day, you should probably head over to, I believe it's BMO Center. That's where the Holiday Expo is for Calgary Expo. We'll also be there. We'll have a table there promoting Otafest stuff. What a surprise. But we also have tickets on sale there. I believe $50. The best part is no service fee as you would pay online. So $50 flat rate. Get your passes there. And we also unveiled a new holiday pin, Christmas time kind of thing. It looks really nice. If you haven't seen it on social media yet, it's on Facebook.
Go check it out. It's really
Yeah.
cute.
It's like this light green. It's got sparkles.
It's very Aurora
Sparkles,
like color. The color is very Aurora's hair.
Yeah.
So
It was
I
really
like
nice. They did a really good job. So
Mhm.
check that out. The passes are still $50 online, but they do have a service charge, so it's probably closer to $55. My battery is running low. I'm doomed. That's okay.
doomed.
It's alright. I deserve it. I should be checking these things, but whatever. But yeah, before
Do you
January
need to go
1st.
plug that in while we continue talking?
There should be a cord over on Angela's side that comes over here. Yeah, it's sweet.
Sweet.
Gearing on
Juice.
the flow. All right, let's go. So yeah, that's pretty much everything that you really need to know about Otafest in the next 4 weeks or so. November is a busy month because we're heading into December, and means everything has to be corporate as shit.
Yes. Bow down to your corporate overlords.
Your consumerist.
Who here
Pray to the
has
gods
worked
of
retail?
capitalism.
We've all worked
We've
retail,
all worked
right?
retail.
I've worked retail.
Oh,
What was it?
man.
Where did you guys work retail? What was your first retail job?
For me, it was The Source, basically Canadian Radio Shack. For anyone
Wow.
who doesn't know,
It was Radio Shack for a long
It
time.
was,
too, so.
yeah.
I worked there for 7 years.
Ooh.
When I started working there was no Black Friday.
Yep.
By
Yeah.
the end of me working there,
It was like
Black
Black
Friday.
So hold
had
on, back
morphed
up.
into something
When
completely different.
when did Black Friday officially become a thing in Canada? Well, maybe
You know
here.
what? I can look
like
that up.
Here. When did Black Friday really
didn't
start
really
becoming
start
a thing?
doing it at The Source until I want to say 2013 or 2014.
Yeah, some companies were a little bit
Mhm.
on it faster than others, but Canada, Black Friday.
I don't think I'm under any NDAs, but I'm not going to give exact numbers. But for
But-
Boxing Day, for the first 5 years that I was working there,
Mhm.
it was the biggest deal.
Oh.
By the end of me working there, Black Friday had totally cannibalized all the Boxing Day sales.
I'm not surprised.
Yeah.
So my first and only retail experience was working at Blue Notes, and as you can imagine, it was not a good time.
I swore that I would never work clothing retail, and I haven't. I've never worked clothing
It was
retail.
not a good time.
It's not because I think it's like the worst kind of retail there is. I just hate the idea that if you're on the sales floor and someone sneezes on your the pile of clothes that you just folded, you have to fold them again. And I think it's just the most tedious thing.
It is. It
Uh,
was.
Boxing Day is one thing. 2001, blah blah blah. 2012. About 2008 was the first sort of big Black Friday, because apparently in 2001 there were a lot of Canadians who lived in the border, let's say Vancouver and GTA areas. They would travel across.
GTA isn't the border.
Not GTA, but Southern Ontario.
Close
anyways.
enough. You were a bus ride away from the border.
Yeah. Well,
It's a long-ass bus
people
ride.
people will do a lot
Now,
of
having
things
that
for
said,
deals.
as a Windsor man, cross-border shopping is a big deal.
It
Right?
is.
It is thoroughly good.
Yeah.
Like going across the border, Detroit, Dearborn, Great Lakes
Like-
Crossing. That place was awesome.
Let's say you use $50 in fuel, but you can save $100 or $200 on a TV. I can understand it, right? Like,
well,
you know what I mean?
it depends on what you got because you had to smuggle it back over the border.
Right, because
Or
you didn't want to
had
announce it
bring
to
enough
customs,
people
right?
in the car.
Yeah.
So that your value for customs was large enough.
Yeah.
Like this was down to a science.
Yeah, I'm sure it was, and it's
what
not like
was the science? Tell me.
Basically, I was too young at the time because pre 9/11, you didn't need a passport to get over the border.
Right.
You
Yeah.
could just go to the border with a
That's
driver's
true.
license, or in my case, because I was younger, ratty ass birth certificate.
Ooh.
That's just an unlaminated piece of paper,
Yeah.
and you're across the border, and you're doing whatever the hell you want.
yeah,
And then because customs free, there was only so much of a limit per person, so it wasn't odd to have like 3 or 4 adults in a minivan with
Mhm.
like 2 kids,
Mhm.
Okay.
and then coming back with $600 or $700 worth of obvious things,
Mm-hmm.
and then another $600 or $700 worth of unobvious things.
I've never
like
done
buying shoes.
any of that,
You throw out your old shoes and you're wearing the new ones across the border.
Oh, okay,
Right.
yeah, that one makes
and
sense.
they can't really like. What are
I
they
did
gonna
that-
do, right?
An
Like,
extra, if you bought a sweater, you're wearing that sweater while going through customs. The
Mhm.
tag is burned before you're ever getting there.
Oh, yeah.
but I mean, at the same time, yeah, like at that point, I don't know if there's anything they really can do about that in a sense.
Yeah,
Like
it's like
they
proof.
could be like, that looks pretty new. It's like, yeah, I got it last week. Thanks.
Yeah, exactly.
Right, like, you
Man,
can't-
I got it last week. I take good care of my stuff.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right.
I mean, how far are you gonna burn through that sweater in a week anyway? Like, do
Honestly,
you go through sweaters like every
It's
week?
basically an open secret.
Yeah.
Customs, they don't care if someone's bringing back a new sweater or something. The big things were produce.
Electronics.
Not even actually.
Really? I totally
Things
thought
Produce-
so.
I can totally see why
pests could
produce.
be in.
Yeah.
Like
Uh,
produce, plants,
Right.
Yeah.
wooden things.
Okay.
Meat products of any
Meat
kind.
product. Meat products?
Always.
Like for food, for a
Meat-
certain amount,
meat,
you can
dairy.
get over just by saying, yeah, it's just for me.
Yeah.
but
But
yeah,
if you're bringing back like 8 cases of beer
Yeah.
or something, they're like, that's not all for you. Come on.
and then they look at Angela and he's like, maybe that's all. Anyway, yeah, Black Friday. I remember when I first started working in retail, which was like a long time ago. I've done only sort of like low level retail. Like a lot of my stuff was usually technical in nature, but also happened to have sales on the side.
Mm.
But by the time that I worked in more like just sales focused areas and there was like Black Friday, I didn't hate it that badly. But maybe it was just me. Like I think that like or maybe it was our sales or our type of like store, which was like at the time I remember I was an ass man at a shoe store. So that it was like people would come in and buy shoes and they'd be interested. But I mean there's also a bunch of other shoe stores around anyways because I worked in a mall.
Yep.
So like the competition was like fierce, but
Fairly.
I also didn't have to deal with that much stuff, you know?
Mm.
Like at the end of the day, I'm gonna sell you either a couple pairs of shoes or you're gonna walk out the door and I'm like, okay.
I want to say the first 2 Black Fridays that I was working at the source, almost no customers even realized it was happening.
Yeah, they're like, oh cool, there's a
It
sale.
was like, oh, there's a sale. And it was busier than normal.
Yeah.
But it wasn't busy.
Hmm.
And for all those years, Boxing Day was the nightmare day.
Boxing Day is still the
Uh,
nightmare day, but I'd rather.
And then closer to like
Yeah.
the middle years, both days would be the nightmare days. People who realized, holy shit, there's a deal at the source. Let's
The
go there
only-
both days.
So the difference with Black Friday and Boxing Day is that Black Friday isn't a stat holiday. People don't get that day off work. If they're
Yeah,
actually
you're just
going
suffering.
to take advantage of that sale day, they actually take a day off to go do it. Which
Well,
is
it's not
the
even
difference.
that. It's that retail workers have to suffer because they don't even get paid more. They just have to.
That too.
They just have to deal with crap.
Yep.
Exactly.
But at least I will say, and there's been very limited instances in where like Canadian buyers were like stupid about it. But generally speaking, the behaviors of Canadians at like a retail location during Black Friday or even Boxing Day have been pretty tame. Like there's been a couple of times where people are like, you hear about something slightly dumb, but no one's getting shot, no one's getting trampled. I think, although maybe there was one case that was trampling. I don't remember.
We never had people acting that bad.
No, but I've heard
No,
stories.
People
I've
get
heard
pushy
stories.
and
You hear
impatient.
stories.
I don't
Yeah.
think I've
But
heard.
I've had more customers be in a bad mood
Yeah.
the few days leading up to Christmas,
Mm-hmm.
more so than Boxing Day or Black Friday. On those days, people are like, yeah, it's busy, whatever. We understand.
Do you think it's
But the
because
few days up to
people
Christmas,
are?
it's because people are under so much stress.
Yeah, but do you think it's because they've had more time to wear them down? Because it's like it's a ticking time bomb, right? The closer you get to Christmas, the more urgent your shopping needs are.
I like, first of all, I'm the kind of person that, I'm not trying to say I'm super thoughtful. I just kind of sort of plan things out already. Like, I have 2 levels or 3 levels of gifts: family gifts, good friend gifts, and like general gifts that I just don't mind giving out, because I don't mind giving out gifts if I can afford, whatever it is that I'm giving away or whatever.
Mhm.
And
I'm very much a last minute shopper.
but even when I'm last minute, I still have an idea of what I want for somebody. So I know when I'm going out. Like, I'm very much that typical guy shopper where it's like, I'm not browsing. I know what I want. I came here to hunt.
For me,
I'm very much like that when I go shopping. I don't
I
go to a
wish
mall
I
to
were
like
like that.
graze.
Yeah,
I go
yeah.
because it's like, okay, I gotta hit this store, and then
Right.
I'm done.
And so even I've been last minute, but I know exactly what I'm getting, and even if I can't get that exact product anymore, maybe because I was last minute and it ran out, I also have like backup ideas because I know what my general idea was for that person or
I
or
often
group.
have no idea what I'm getting someone until I see it at a store.
And
so-
wow,
I'm walking through the stores
Purely
and I'm just
emotional.
being like, what does this person want? What do they need? How do I appease the gods of capitalism for their honor?
Oh,
and you're
boy.
like,
And so
I can't.
no, sometimes I do really good and sometimes it's
Yeah, here's a gift card. No.
Yeah.
Here's an
Like-
Amazon gift card.
There was one time for my mom's birthday where I was just walking through a store being like, what the hell do I get her?
Yeah.
And I saw these decorative treasure chests that were covered in aged world maps, and I was like, that's cool looking.
That is
I
cool.
know she'll like that.
It's
Oh.
$300.
But what the hell do I put inside of it?
Oh.
And then so I kept looking around, and luckily her birthday is just in the time of the month where garden centers are still open.
Huh.
So I went and got some flower pots and put those inside of there with the plants and everything, and it looked awesome.
Huh.
And I got it to the point where it could still close and I could wrap it in a bow
Wow.
so that she would open it up and these live flowers would pop out, and that was one of the best I've done.
Angelo
And I had
is
no idea I was doing
what
it.
we're
That is a
learning about.
moment of
What we're
pride.
learning is that Angelo is an impulsive but like emotional gifter.
Yeah.
Sort of like you see, and I totally get that when you see something and it makes, like, when I'm
And
on
then
holiday.
this year for Dio's birthday, it was the most boring thing ever. I bought her a bathrobe because she kept stealing mine.
That's true. I was
Hey,
there for
it's
that. I saw that.
practical.
Yeah.
That's
she loves it.
practical.
No, she
Every
likes
day.
it. That's the other thing.
It was a good
But
gift.
I think
it was
like
a boring gift.
it's how I approach souvenirs. So I don't typically buy souvenirs, and I don't typically expect souvenirs or anything like that. But when I do go out and I'm traveling or whatever the occasion might be, and I see something and it specifically reminds me of somebody, and again, like, price tag being reasonable or whatever, I might buy it for them because
Right.
it's the best kind of gift when you're like, hey, like, I saw this, made me think of you. Maybe it's like, I know you like this is your favorite chocolate bar. It could be something simple like that, or it could be like, this is a series I know you like, and this was a thing from that series or whatever, right? But aside from that, I tend, like I said, I tend to plan out what it is. But like, planning is still like, it's in the realm of what Angelo does. But yours is sort of more impressive
All I
because
know-
you're sort of like, pow! Like,
I'm going
I'm gonna do it.
somewhere for this person.
Yeah.
Huh.
And I don't know what I'm getting.
Do you think there's anything worth getting right now? Do you look up anything for Black Friday?
I
have a-
haven't looked up anything yet.
Hold on.
Yeah, hold on. I have a friend who currently happens to be bed shopping. So he's literally on the lookout for a mattress, a good one, from, he doesn't care where, but a mattress that he will actually enjoy sleeping on. That's it. It's extremely practical. It's like one of the most grown-up things I've ever heard anyone doing for Black Friday. It's like, I'm looking for a bed. It's like, okay.
It makes sense. You need it. Like
And you
if
spend
don't wanna
so
sleep
much
on
time in your bed.
Yeah.
You should, anyways.
You
But I think that
Happy
There hasn't
medium,
been-
though, not too much.
there hasn't been anything that I've looked up for specifically Black Friday, because I also just, sales, while they're nice and like depending again on the price tag, if the price tag is over, I don't know, like $200, $300, $400, $500, that kind of thing, it might be nice to have it on sale. But most of the things I'm looking for nowadays lie in that 50 to 100 sort of range most
Yeah.
of the time, if it's something I really want or something
Yeah.
like that. And if it's on sale, then like great.
Even
but I
better.
also usually don't care that much. And I'm not saying that I'm making like lots of dosh or something that I can be like, I can buy whatever I want. But it's also like to a certain point, you're like, a sale is nice, but immediacy is nice too, right?
Yeah.
Like if depending on what you want out of it.
Like, there's a couple things that I want to look for. I want to check out some pants. I know that Mark's is going to have some sort of deal on, so I'm going to find pants.
Mark's
Sure.
pants.
Mark's workwear.
And the other thing that kind of leads into a different topic,
Uh-huh.
I want to look at VR headsets.
Yes.
I don't think I'm going to get one because I don't think any sale will be good enough
I
to
have
justify.
serious. I've said
I'm
so.
Like,
VR headsets are
Okay.
just. They're
I-
so.
I'm looking at the HTC Vive, and it's $1,000 Canadian for the full kit, right?
yes.
Yeah.
If it went down to $600, I'd consider it.
No,
That's the
I
point
still
where
don't
I'd
think
start,
I'd consider it.
I'd start trying to justify
I don't.
it and,
I don't think there's any value
and
in it.
lying to myself to make me buy it.
I think there's no.
I still don't think I would at that price
At the
point.
so
But that's where I would start.
like
and I
2
don't
years
think
ago-
the deals are going to get that.
Angela, 2 years ago, we were talking about this on the podcast about like because it was like that's when VR was starting to come out really like
Yeah.
with and here's the thing, two things have not changed. The price has not scaled down to the way that we want it to.
The
No.
price has come down, just not enough.
Yeah, not enough, and the availability isn't enough. But I would also argue that the software hasn't
It's not
justified
good
it.
enough.
It's none of the software is particularly that good. And number three, there actually hasn't been enough technological development in it for me to say that you'd want it. So like there's I'll reiterate what I said before because I can remember fairly clearly. Number one, you're limited by space, by your own physical space.
Yes.
In my place right now, I could not
If
set
you
up
yeeted this
Ta-
table onto
Yes.
the balcony, then you could play.
but that's the problem. Like
But you'd
Uh,
have
no,
to do
most
that
people-
every time you play.
it's not even and that's not even just my space. I don't think there's a lot of places like a lot of homes where you could be like, I'm just gonna clear this area away so I can have this
Have the space for a
to play
VR
this,
game.
right? Number two is it's not immersive enough. I want
Yeah.
it to be you want an immersive experience, as in it doesn't break too much, right? Like I'm not even video games like sort of break the immersion experience, but you're also in a third party sort of sense. Once you're in that first party like environment, you want to not be pulled away by some like either it's like the wall imprint kind of thing or the fact that you're just holding like controllers instead of like having like a haptic
Like
glove
hands,
feedback
yeah,
kind of
haptic
thing.
gloves would be great.
And the other thing is just movement, right? Like you have not just about space, but we know that there's like these omnidirectional treadmills. They're expensive as
Yeah.
shit,
they
Fuck
are,
no.
yes.
and
I would never get into that.
and it's just, but it's sort of an essential part because like no one really wants to be clicking around and doing all this other stuff. Like there's so many drawbacks to it right now, and I get that there are fun games. Like I have wanted or have seen software that I want to play, but you're looking
Beat
at
Saber.
2 or 3
Beat Saber.
games.
Beat Saber.
I played Beat Saber. It's fun. It's not.
But would you
it's
pay
not-
for it?
$1,000 fun.
Yeah.
That's
So-
the thing.
And
Like
it's not.
The
I-
other
I haven't
thing,
played it.
The
I know
software.
it's not $1,000 fun.
the
Yeah.
software is too sparse, too limited. Library is too small, and
Plus you need
still
the
have to
hardware
pay
for
on
it.
top of the hardware
yeah,
cost.
you
Yes.
need a powerful enough like video card
Yeah.
to power this.
Like I don't know about you guys, but I would need it to be like I need VR to not just be a gaming experience. I need it to be almost like the same way I treat a computer, where I'm browsing Chrome on this, I'm watching YouTube
Now-
videos on it. Because like if I'm not doing that sort of thing, it doesn't. Why would I?
Justify
Yeah.
the
Not to
cost.
mention, again, you also need a computer
Yes.
to run that.
Oh,
It's
absolutely.
not just
a
a VR
very
headset.
expensive
You need
computer.
a fairly strong computer, like sort of mid-high range at this point.
Now I'm blessed in that most of the requirements I tick those boxes.
Yeah.
I've got a good computer. It's the 7700K with the Vega 64 that can do VR. I've got space. All I have to do is push my chair out of the way, and I have space. I actually do.
Sure.
The only things, there's 2 games I want to play:
Uh-huh.
Beat Saber
Okay.
and one other game that's not out for half a year.
Is it Half-Life Alyx?
It is Half-Life Alyx.
Aha.
You lied to me. I saw you on Twitter. You're like, I don't care. And you're like, I care.
I didn't want to care, and then I saw the trailer. And
Yeah,
it
Dio was.
looks
Oh,
It was funny because I saw the Twitter
no.
conversation. I saw the thread. Dio was just like linking you. She's like, "Hey, like Half-Life still can't count to 3, but here's Alex," and you're like, "Oh, I don't
I
care."
didn't want to care.
'Cause-
I don't want to care because I don't want to spend the money. And like VR has come down in price. The HTC
Yeah.
Vive, when it was launched, was $1,500 Canadian. Now it's $1,000. That's still too goddamn expensive, though.
Personally,
It needs to get down to like the $500 range before
Yeah.
you consider it.
absolutely. But
Because-
personally, I'm not gonna get into any of this until we have like holodecks and holosuites, man.
So, that's the other game. That's the other game I want to play. I want to play Bridge
The-
Command or
Bridge
whatever.
Command?
Or I think
Oh.
that's what it's called. I don't remember.
I just want to
Yep.
play Half-Life and Beat
Trek
Saber.
VR game.
Yep.
Maybe I'd try VR chat, but I really don't think I'd be interested in it.
Bridge Crew.
Bridge crew.
That's what it is.
The only other thing is,
You can do that.
the Vive is a high-resolution
is
monitor,
bad.
and I want to see if it's possible
Wow.
or what it's like to use it for productivity.
If
If it's worthwhile at all, or if
I-
I would be better off just getting a better monitor.
that's the only thing I
Can
would
you
look
actually wear one of those just like full time as a monitor?
at. But would
I
you
can't see
want
why
to?
not.
Would you
But I
want
don't think
to?
I don't think you would want to.
No.
I
First
think
of
it'd be
all,
very
okay, so
disorienting-
I would've-
disorienting because the only way I think, depending on how you would have it work,
Mhm.
is you'd only be able to look at it with moving your eyes.
Well, the other thing is, two things. I wear glasses. I know that you can wear them with glasses. Like I said, I've played with VR. I've done the whole thing, but I don't necessarily want to. Second of all, I like having real world peripheral vision. Like
I
it's
agree.
nice to know
I
that
agree.
I don't know, maybe in your house, if your friend or family member drops something, and you don't have to like whip out, like you kind of just have to look at the source of the noise or something like that.
At
You know
the
what I mean?
risk
Yeah.
of destroying my plan. The reason why I was looking at this,
Yes.
and the reason I would need such a huge discount for new hardware, is yesterday I looked at eBay for used hardware.
And
You can get there was a couple listings where you
Or-
could get a complete Vive kit, used of course,
Ooh.
for $400 Canadian after shipping. And that's the price point where it starts making sense.
yeah.
That's the price point where it's like
Here's a, I
that's
think
tempting.
it's
That's tempting.
the best way to put it. I think in your viewpoint, which I don't disagree with, is that it needs to cost about the same as a console.
Yeah.
If it costs more than a console, and we're not talking about this PlayStation 5 gonna cost $1,100 Canadian bullshit. I'm talking
No.
about an Xbox One or Nintendo Switch or something of that level. Whether it's realistic for the companies themselves or not, that's kind of their main competitor.
It is. It
Mhm.
absolutely
No
is.
matter how you look at it, because a console is nothing more than a peripheral in its own way, right?
Sure.
Like a computer is a computer. It's not.
I
a
would argue
peripheral.
I would change your word. Consoles are an ecosystem.
No, they're peripheral because they only, to me,
They
they
are.
only do one thing.
Well, they are an ecosystem though, because in this
You
case,
buy an Xbox,
yeah,
and
you
then
can
you're in
only
the
play.
Xbox ecosystem.
Yeah,
You be up by a VR headset.
but you're in
You're
the
in
PC.
the VR headset
Yeah,
ecosystem.
but you're
of
on the
course you need other
PC.
things. It's a
I
peripheral.
guess. Like, I understand where you're coming from, but to me, if it's for single use, and I don't care that you can browse the internet on a console, like
who's gonna do that?
it's just fucking controls. And
You have
typing
no
and
idea
it's
how many
garbage.
teenagers went to illicit sites on the 3DS web browser.
I am really curious now. Thank you for bringing up this
Yeah, but at least
curiosity I
on the
never thought I would think about.
3DS, you sort of have a mouse. Like it's probably easier because you can tap the screen.
It was a
right?
garbage browser. It was really bad. It took like.
I'm not
10
saying
minutes
it's
to
not.
render any page.
Anyway, I just think that overall, if you end up buying that $400 used one, or if it ever comes down, like great, but it is definitely not justifiable. And anyone who has it,
It's
like great, I think it
extremely
is
hard to
fun.
justify it. Even at $400,
Yeah.
it's like there's so much more I could do with that money.
Here's the other issue that I have with it is that so in a game like Bridge Crew that I was talking about,
Mhm.
Yeah.
the best part about that game is that you can play in multiplayer.
Mhm.
It's not about me having it; it's about you guys having it
Oh
too.
no!
But then
So
we
that
all
sucks.
have to do it.
That
we
super
all have our
sucks.
own space.
You know what that reminds me of? Final Fantasy Crystal Chronicles.
Oh
on the GameCube.
man, that was a
Why is that?
time.
I don't know
Because
anything about it.
Because
It
okay,
was
so
an amazing
it was a
multiplayer
great
experience.
game.
The best multiplayer experience on the GameCube.
but every player needed to have a GBA to play.
Not only that, you needed all the link cables, all the
And-
GameCube link cables
Yeah,
to be able to
and
play.
you
Uh-huh.
could try and play without the GBA, but then you wouldn't have a map. You wouldn't have your extra.
It just straight up wouldn't let you.
yeah,
Like you could
it's
play
right.
single player without
You
a
could
Game
play
Boy,
single player without the GBA. That's
but as
right.
soon as you want even two players, you need the Game Boy.
you
Right.
have to.
So that goes from like this $60, $80, whatever it was, cost of single player,
Plus the
to
game.
suddenly
Yeah, plus the
a
game.
$400 plus experience
Oh yeah.
for 2-player,
Mhm.
scaling up to like $800 or $900 if you wanted everyone to play. Of course, it wasn't all one person buying all that hardware.
Mhm.
unless
But
you
like
were
it was
my one
really,
friend.
ooh.
But
But I found that to be a really exclusive sort of.
it was
Yeah.
hard to play multiplayer when that game was best in multiplayer.
Yeah, and like if back then I was in like what freaking high school, like
Yeah.
like I would have been like Angelo, yo, come over and play a game with me. But like you can't. You'd have to go out and buy a GBA just to play this game with me.
Yeah.
Bitch, bring over your Game Boy Advance. I got 2 cables.
But like if you didn't have 2 cables, I'd have to go out and buy my
I
own.
seriously never knew anything about
This was the biggest problem for me because it was such a good experience, but I was unwilling to spend the money to actually be able to play the game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it was so expensive. I was in high school. I can't afford this.
Exactly.
So, in the same sort of vein, and we're talking about consoles as well. So, new console, not new concept, but Netflix, but for games, it's the holy grail. We've reached this topic when it was first announced.
Oh.
Google
Google
Stadia.
Stadia. Oh yes.
Google Stadia.
Is it Stadia or Stadia?
Stadia.
Stadia.
Okay, because
Stadia.
I always want to call it Stadia because
Because of the way it's spelled.
well, not just that, because it's Italian in nature, and Italian that's the Italian word for stadium, and you say Stadia. So
Yeah,
I don't
but
know how they're supposed
we're
to.
in North America, and I guess we say stadium.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe in Italy they'll still call it Stadia. I
So-
hope they do, sort of.
Did you guys keep up with the launch of Stadia at all?
Yes.
I did not watch the actual launch.
So my biggest concern is the fact that it is. So I mean, the concept is really cool. I think it could make like heavy gaming a lot more accessible to people who don't want to keep up with hardware. But my biggest problem with that is that now it just shifts the cost onto internet because you need to be able to just constantly be streaming.
I was
games.
gonna say like
I
that's
wanna say
the exact
is,
opposite.
What
yeah.
the fuck were you thinking, Google? People who pre-ordered.
Oh shit! Of
this-
course,
Yeah,
people,
people
pre-ordered.
pre-ordered. You needed the Chromecast
Google
Ultra.
didn't give you the access code.
What?
For some people, up to 2 days later.
Oh,
Is it through Chromecast?
It's-
didn't know
you
that.
have
Okay,
to.
so there's a couple different things.
Okay, yeah. Well,
It's,
hold on. We'll back up and summarize the actual like launch. So
Okay, so I'll give a brief timeline. Back in June, and a little bit extra, you could pre-order the Stadia controller and the Chromecast Ultra. It was like a $130 US package, and it ships to you last week. Hopefully, it shipped to you.
Yep.
And Google didn't give you the access code to turn the Chromecast Ultra into a Stadia device.
Oh, that's weird.
I missed that part.
Because they were going to email you the access code to do that later on. But they didn't do that on launch day. In fact, it was like 2 days later that some people finally got their codes. Some people didn't even get their codes all through the weekend.
So
So
they basically
imagine
had a
you
giant
pre-ordered
infrastructure that no one played on.
US
Yeah,
dollars.
You
and
had
on
no
launch
infrastructure
weekend,
in place.
you couldn't play the game.
Yeah, you had no
couldn't make it
effective
work.
infrastructure. Like you had device, but that doesn't necessarily mean infrastructure in this day and age because
Right.
you still need access.
Now, having that said, it's a cool idea. It's
It's not.
play without a console.
It's not. It's not a cool idea. It's not an ingenious idea.
People
the-
have had the idea before, and no one's really made it
No,
work.
the problem with it is, first of all, you're right that so it shifts the burden on having a good internet connection, but it also my biggest issue that I have with it, and it's a little bit different with Netflix or something like that because somehow we sort of like there's an expected rotation of things. If anyone who ever had a PlayStation 3 and they played PT, and then PT got pulled
Yes.
Yes.
because they have the right to do so,
Yes.
you should not want that for something
Exactly.
that like it's one thing sort of to have like sorry I'm gonna loop something in here a little bit later too regarding Stadia and sort of like this sort of service, but losing the right to play a game that you haven't finished is probably the dumbest thing I've ever heard, because if you're like halfway through, let's say Witcher or some other long game, and they're like, through some licensing agreement or some other thing, we can't have you play this game
So
anymore.
that is absolutely the biggest problem with Stadia, I think. I want to say a couple good things about it. before I get into the laundry list of things I hate about it. Is that okay? So
Why don't we try this with the pro negatives and then pro and try and make this a little
because
sandwich?
then we'd only get into like 2 of the negatives.
Okay.
So
pro thing
the
that
cool
you like.
thing is,
Yes.
you can play the games in very good quality on just about any device.
Yes.
You can have a
Granted
fucking
that
potato with a screen.
Granted, you need a good internet connection, and you're not relying on something ridiculous like
Now,
7.1
how
Dolby
good of an
surround
internet
sound.
connection do you need? Do you know?
Pretty.
They say
They say.
at least
I'm gonna guess
35
25.
megabit per second down,
Oh, I was gonna guess about 25.
and they say
But 50 is not that hard.
something
to
like
attain.
15 or 10 megabit per second up
What was the cost? What's the cost for Stadia to buy one?
to buy the kit.
Yeah.
It was $130. I don't know what the subscription cost is because I don't care enough to find out.
I
But-
think it's
So you need a beefy ass internet connection that most people don't have.
9 or 13.
Uh,
This one?
Do you know how much data it uses in an hour?
A lot.
Around 4 gigs.
A lot.
So-
That's pretty heavy considering
And
that's
The whole
about
idea
that's supposed
of,
to be like
say,
1080.
using it on your
Yeah.
phone when you're out and about.
I think
Yeah, fuck.
1080p YouTube streaming is about 2 gigs just for comparison for an
Yeah.
hour.
Yeah.
So that's fairly heavy. But I will also say, and I'm sorry to say that we're probably not going to get into that long laundry list of what you're saying, but I want to. There's another service that's just popped up, and we haven't looped it in, but it's in the same family, sort of, which is Microsoft Game Pass.
Yes.
So while you don't need a whole new setup like to do so, but the Game Pass is another subscription sort of system. You're gonna download the game. You have the game. I believe it's
But
gonna be
there's
on your
a
hard
big
drive.
difference between Stadia and Game Pass.
Yeah, because you're not actively streaming the game.
A lot of people are saying that like Stadia is Netflix for video games.
Yeah.
It's not. Because you pay your subscription fee, you buy whatever hardware you want, and then you still have to buy the game.
That is true.
Game Pass is that not actually Netflix for video games?
More so, in a sense.
Like
You download the game. You don't have to stream the game, but they have the ability to revoke access to the game, which really annoys me. There's another several sets of reasons that like changes how I want to enjoy PC gaming in general as well, because with these kind of user agreements that you're going to start seeing, with the kind of control that they have to the content that you're going to be playing, they're going to clamp down on things like mods, unfortunately, as well. And mods are like a huge part of the gaming community. If you are a PC gamer, it is one of the primary reasons you should be a PC gamer, is that the fact that you can have a lot more resources attributed into your game through the use of third-party mods. That the truth is, most of them, I would say, like literally the majority, are not trying to be malicious or in any way. They do alter some of like the code,
One
or
of the
they
most
inject code sometimes.
Fun times gaming I've ever had
Yeah.
was when Blizzard was down for maintenance and we couldn't get into Overwatch. Me and a few friends went and got the character models for Overwatch, like just through Steam Workshop,
Right.
brought them into Left 4 Dead 2.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that was our Overwatch for the night. We were playing Overwatch 2 zombie mode. It was great.
Yeah. But the problem I have again with how things are going to be changing with these sort of subscription models and sort of right to access games, right, is that again, even if you don't want to talk about the mod argument, you don't want to talk about like the accessibility argument, I don't want to lose access to a game that I'm only half completed for no reason other than they couldn't come to an agreement somewhere up the line.
Yeah.
And I have no control over.
And again, on that same note, like their launch library of games is quite small.
Oh, it's super small.
And
Stadia's
mostly,
is. Game Pass is
Stadia.
Yeah.
And
sorry, I'm always going to call it Stadia, I think, at this point. But
that's
anyways,
fine.
yeah.
I don't care.
No one cares about Stadia.
No. But my thing is that it's a very small library, and it's mostly older games. There's like what do they have for launch exclusives?
They're all a little bit older. They're also probably going to start. They're probably going to come out slower than other release platforms, just because they probably have to configure it slightly differently for the streaming to work.
Now, Jay, you're really, really, really worried about Google killing off Stadia, it seems. But why would Google do that? Like,
Google just
is
has-
a big company. They have all the money. They can keep Stadia going for like
But they
decades,
have
right?
a terrible
killed-
track record for
they've-
killing off
It's not
things.
like
They
there's
kill
a
a
kill
bunch
by
of-
Google.com or anything, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
no,
no.
not at all.
No.
Not at
It's-
all.
It's not like Google ever killed Google Wave
Or they're
or
planning on
MyTracks,
killing
or the
CloudPrint
or
in the next
CloudPrint,
year.
or
Or the old GChat.
Google Glass.
Google kills
Google
everything.
Glass.
It's interesting.
Bless
because they
your
have a
hearts, early adopters of Google Stadia. But
Honestly,
I
I
don't-
sorry.
I
thought the
don't believe
idea
you.
might have been worth, like back in June when they announced it, I thought it might have been like a worthwhile
But Google was saying
things
some
to
really cool
support.
things, like how they were going to do negative latency eventually, right?
something
Did you
like
guys hear about
that.
that?
I did hear about that.
And how everyone is going to be like, yeah, but there's network latency involved, and it's going to suck for input, and it's going to be
Yeah.
And so Gamers Nexus is a great YouTube channel, and they this morning actually released some numbers on what your input latency, what kind you can expect.
Mhm.
It's probably at least in the 50 millisecond range.
So, for the best case scenario in a lot of games, it was 50 milliseconds above what you would already experience.
Normally.
With some games doing extremely bad. Metro Last Light, they were experiencing 300 millisecond input latency.
Ooh.
Well, you better, it just
In an
it makes you
FPS.
anticipate. You should just be a better gamer and be able to anticipate
In an
better.
FPS. And I
Wow.
understand it's a single player FPS.
Wow.
Yeah.
So it's not like it's a competitive FPS, but I would say that's unplayable.
I think,
And on top of that, that was the worst case scenario.
sure.
But you're like, oh, well, maybe they just have shitty internet. They have gigabit symmetric Google Fiber.
Here's
That
the
is
other-
the best case scenario.
Ooh.
The internet, at the end of the day, I think it's going to come crashing down on internet because there are actually plenty of countries that, we're not even talking about like developing countries of any kind, that just don't have great access. Like Australia has notoriously terrible internet.
Yeah.
Stadia's
Canada.
down on arrival.
Canada sort of
has
doesn't have
Canada.
great
a sprawl
internet,
issue.
right?
Yep.
Even
The U.S. has Comcast.
the U.S. has issues in the sense that, like, in the middle of the U.S., sort of,
You know what?
they have some issues, and
Really
and
bad?
generally speaking, like the countries with the best internet don't necessarily want to buy into this anyways. Like,
There
there's
were some
I think
Google
the
reps who
user
were saying that, yeah, but
the user base is quite
if
small.
you create use cases that people want to play that require
Yeah.
faster internet, the ISPs, to please their customers, to try to pull in new customers,
Yeah.
they're going to step up their game to deliver a better product. This is a company saying this. This is Google saying this. A company who created their own ISP because ISPs weren't good enough.
Yeah, but they haven't really spread as far as they thought they would.
They
I want
haven't
to get
spread
back
as far
to
because ISPs are like blocking them
Yeah.
in every way.
I want to get back to something that was a little bit more fun, which is I want to finish up here with Half-Life Alyx a little bit.
Oh yeah.
Because it is fairly recent news. It takes place in between 1 and 2, I believe.
Yes, it's a prequel to Half-Life 2.
Yeah.
But they have said you should have played Half-Life 2 Episode 2 before you play Half-Life Alyx.
Yeah.
And the reason will be obvious.
It looks pretty good, I will say. I saw the trailer.
The trailer, it looks so good.
Have you played Half-Life games? Yes.
I have. Yes.
Would you,
So good. It looks so
if
fun.
it wasn't VR, would you get it?
Yeah, I'd get it if it wasn't VR.
If it wasn't
think-
VR,
If it was-
I would have pre-ordered already.
Yeah.
I don't pre-order. I would have pre-ordered it
Yeah.
already.
Yeah.
I know that in this case there is a Vive, or not a Vive. It's a Steam VR pre-order package that comes with
Valve
Alyx.
Index. That
Yeah, yeah.
All versions of the Valve Index come with it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
which is great and all, but
The Valve
still
Index,
too limited.
when I first heard of this, they weren't shipping Valve Index to Canada.
No,
Some point within like the days of them announcing it and giving more information,
right?
suddenly they shipped the Valve Index to Canada.
That's great.
The Valve Index is $1,300 Canadian. by the
Oh
way.
my god.
But
I'm not
again,
buying
the
Valve
game
Index.
itself looks fun. I'm hoping, and I think we're all sort of hoping that they come out. They're gonna release a non-VR version,
Hopefully.
because obviously you can still make software money, but I have a feeling that we're not going to see that for like a full year after the original Alyx
I'm
release.
not sure if that'll happen at all. But
Because they're trying to push that.
the day
hardware.
that Portal came out, you know what was happening?
Hmm.
People were bringing the Half-Life 2 maps into Portal so suddenly you could play Half-Life 2 with a gravity gun.
Yeah, I remember
Now
that.
I understand the Half-Life Alyx is a Source 2 engine game,
Yeah.
so it might not work right away. But
Someone's gonna find a way.
somebody is gonna port those maps to Half-Life 2 Episode 2 engine.
It's true.
And it's going to be playable and it's going to be good. PC modding, hell yeah!
Thank you, Steam mod community.
Yeah,
Ah.
basically.
It's
You know.
going to happen.
I just don't want
And
them
like I
to
said, like
fall.
the game looks fun. I'm not even the biggest Half-Life fan, but I've played through it and it's like it is fun. It's just that I was never like super into it. If it's VR only, I will probably never touch it. Like it's just the truth.
I'm disappointed that it's VR only.
I'm-
And what I've been saying is, yeah,
Steam-
I'll enjoy it. I'll love it.
Steam
watching
has a
someone
bad
else's
history.
Stream.
Steam has a very poor history of hardware. Like
yeah,
hardware,
like
hardware
the
push.
controller,
the Steam box or whatever it
the
was
Steam
called.
box.
Like
The Steam Link works pretty good.
just
It's
no, I'm not saying
the
it does. They
Steam
don't
box
work well.
Concept was kind of dead on arrival.
I'm not saying they don't
Mhm.
work well. I'm just saying that they don't penetrate very well into the market, and therefore,
Yeah.
low usage pretty much dooms it. Anyways, I think we've harped on on a few things
But-
enough here.
I'm excited for it. I'm glad
Yeah.
that Valve is actually making an
Oh,
interesting
Half-Life.
game, not some card game. Fuck you, Artifact.
Ooh,
They still can't count to 3, so that's all that really
That's-
matters.
to be
I'm just
expected.
glad there's something. I'm
It's-
glad there's something.
This is but it's getting ridiculous to the point where it's kind of like Kingdom Hearts.
When was
Where
the
they're
last
like
time
2
Valve
point-
actually made a
2.8.
game?
Yeah, 2.8, not 3, 2.8. I mean, they
We-
finally came out with 3, so maybe Steam can learn from that, but who knows? Anyways, I think that's it for this episode. Thank you so much for listening. There was a lot to bitch about, but that's okay, because sometimes that's all the world gives you, is
Yeah.
things to bitch about.
We're also really humorous when we bitch about things.
Yeah.
It's fun to rant, even if I'm not angry about something.
Yeah.
It's
fun
more
to
it's
rant.
more for the comedic effect,
Sure.
totally.
We'll see you at Calgary Expo, we'll see you at Goro and Gun, and we'll see you at
We'll
Otafest
see
in
you.
like 6 months.
Come say hi, definitely.
Have a good one.
Thanks for
Bye.
listening.
Bye.